I wholeheartedly agree with Anna. Just to be clear, the Lindsey Graham warmongering and blatant murder, really, you can call him a murderer. And other politicians like him, they're murderers because they demand it. They demand war. They demand that our tax dollars pay for war. They demand that American-made weapons be sent to kill people. And you're absolutely right, Cenk, about all the innocent children in Gaza and in Lebanon that have been bombed and brutally murdered by the IDF, and Israel as a whole is unspeakable. And I will tell you that it's that wing of the Republican Party that so many of us voted to destroy. We wanted to end it. And we thought we were going to do that with President Trump.
We're all supposed to mourn, according to Washington, the passing of Lindsey Graham and what a beloved senator. And there's all sorts of talk about how he was so nice to Cory Booker and other Democrats and what a lovely person he was. And I don't know any of that in person, and you might, I don't. And that could easily happen. There are a lot of terrible people in the world who are not impolite in person, right? But what I do know is that he always pushed for war. On Iraq war alone, hundreds of thousands of civilians died because of the wars that Lindsey Graham pushed. So I don't have any complicated feelings about Lindsey Graham. I think he was a terrible person, and I don't mind saying it the day after he dies. And I think and I care so much more about the people he got killed. But Washington says that's very impolite. So I'm curious what you think of Lindsey Graham's record.
Well, having served in Congress for 5 years, I can tell you the ways of Washington is there are plenty of people there that are completely nice people. They're pleasant to be around. They may be fun. They have great senses of humor. That was Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham he would talk to anybody. And he did have a great sense of humor. He was funny, fun-loving. He had tons of energy, and he worked diligently on the things that he cared about. But I can also tell you, I disagreed wholeheartedly with many of his policies. He was a neocon warmonger. He was a murderer. He wanted to wipe out and kill many innocent people in Iran, in Gaza, in Lebanon. He supported war more than anything. He never wanted peace. The only time he may have been interested in peace was because this war is hurting the midterms for President Trump and Republicans. However, one thing about Lindsey Graham that we can all say for sure is he was a dedicated Zionist. And that's why he worked so diligently to send as much money as possible, weapons as possible for Israel. But he was also, he may have been an elected US Senator, but he really was the greatest lobbyist that the military industrial complex could ever have holding power in Washington. And his state, South Carolina, has over 400 military contractors, over 400 that Lindsey Graham made sure that got all types of contracts, grants, got all types of US tax dollars to continue their work to serve the military industrial complex. So it is an interesting thing of how everyone's being shamed and told you can't say anything negative about Lindsey Graham. Look, we can say two things. We can say, oh yeah, he was a delightful person to be around, but at the same time, I disagreed with him adamantly on many, many issues. And it's okay to say both of those things.
Yeah, two things can be true at the same time. Again, I don't know anything about him on a personal level. So if Cory Booker says he was a swell guy, fine. I don't really care though.
Right.
So, George W. Bush always joked around with people and gave them nicknames, Big Slim and stuff. Seems like a pleasant guy, in real life, maybe. But he started a war that got hundreds of thousands of people killed. And so that is the far more relevant part of George Bush's career. Okay, so I want to give the audience more context for what we're talking about so they understand from Lindsey Graham's own mouth the things that he advocated for. So let's start taking a look at that.
To people in my party, I'm tired of this crap. Israel is our friend. They're the most reliable friend we have in the Mideast. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
Okay, so God is going to kill us all if we don't obey Israel. Interesting. Let's see what else this humanitarian had to say.
Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Senator, again, military officials say
whatever you have to do.
So there is an indisputable monster advocating for nuclear war against what? The Palestinians? They barely have stones left. When you nuke someone, you incinerate children, babies, grandmothers, and that unmitigated monster is being celebrated in Washington today. By the way, I haven't not seen any weeping over the 23,000 dead children in Gaza. And so that's, and of course I mean by Washington. The American people have turned on these issues. We're not anywhere done yet. Let's keep going with more from Lindsey Graham's own mouth.
So I just want to say, I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II.
Killing all the right people. By the way, he's speaking at the Republican Jewish Coalition and they cheer wildly. Who do you think the right people are? Almost all Muslims, except to be fair, also some Christians as well. How many of you guys are guilty of doom scrolling late at night on social media, looking at the news and then wondering why you can't fall asleep? Nothing pairs worse with trying to wind down than a bright screen lighting up your face and headlines playing on a loop in your head. Here's what's actually happening. The stress, the screen time, it all raises your core body temperature. And a body that's too warm can't get into deep sleep. Trust me, getting your sleep environment under control can change everything. Enter ChiliPad 2.0, the water-based mattress topper that actively controls your bed temperature from 55 to 115 degrees all night long. No new mattress, no renovation. It actively cools using just water. Fans only move hot air around. ChiliPad actually pulls heat away from your body. Precise, consistent comfort, and the new nightstand remote senses when you get into bed and kicks on automatically. Dual zones mean you and your partner each set your own temperature, no subscription needed. You get a 2-year warranty and they're designed and assembled right here in the USA. Visit www.sleep.me/TYT to get up to $255 off your ChiliPad 2.0 with code TYT. That's www.sleep.me/TYT. Free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night trial so you can test it out, dream big, and wake up better. The headlines will still be there in the morning. You might as well wake up ready for them. And wild applause for the warmonger, genocidal maniac, Lindsey Graham. And people ask us to be polite today? Okay, and then if you forgot about the Iraq war, one last one.
I believe that Saddam Hussein is giving aid and comfort, training and assistance to Al-Qaeda murderers, that he has weapons of mass destruction. He is lying when he says he doesn't, and he will never voluntarily disarm. 500 inspectors, 5,000 inspectors are not gonna make him disarm. He is a danger to our country and the world.
Of course, we found out who was lying, and it was Lindsey Graham. He was lying about the Iraq war, he's lying about the Iran, or he was lying about the Iran war now. My co-host Anna Kasparian wrote on X, good riddance, and people were outraged, Marjorie, absolutely outraged. I didn't see any outrage for the dead children in Gaza. I didn't see any outrage for the hundreds of thousands slaughtered in Iraq, let alone the thousands slaughtered in Iran and Lebanon and Gaza and all the wars that Lindsey Graham was in favor of. And I didn't see nearly as much mourning for the American soldiers and service members who died in Iraq and now Iran. So what do you make of his entire legacy? And then I have one more question for you after that.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Anna. And so just to be clear, the Lindsey Graham warmongering and blatant murder is really, you can call him a murderer, and other politicians like him, they're murderers because they demand it. They demand war. They demand that our tax dollars pay for war. They demand that American-made weapons be sent to kill people. And you're absolutely right, Cenk, about all the innocent children in Gaza and in Lebanon that have been bombed and brutally murdered by the IDF and Israel as a whole is unspeakable. And I will tell you that it's that wing of the Republican Party that so many of us voted to destroy. We wanted to end it. And we thought we were going to do that with President Trump. And boy, have we been wrong. One of the great things that Lindsey Graham was very good at was buddying up with Donald Trump. And he was able to sway Donald Trump to his side, to his view. And that's been one of the biggest betrayals that for people like me, we consider it a betrayal. We consider it one of the worst things that have happened. And it sickens me every single day. And it wasn't supposed to be that way. So in that first clip that you showed when Lindsey Graham said to people in my party, he was talking to me. He was talking to me and a few, Tucker Carlson and a few of us, because we have been so outspoken against his views and his demands for murder and for war. And it should be constantly called out. It's not wrong to call it out after someone's death. As a matter of fact, it's very important to talk about it because Lindsey Graham has been elected in Congress since 1993 and became a senator in 2003. So his views and his warmongering and his demand for murder around the world, and which also led to murder and deaths and PT, all sort of horrific trauma for our American troops. He's responsible for that. And the future of this country is something that we should all take hold of and say, enough. We have had it with this. We want no more of it. But I can tell you right now, there is no end in sight as Donald Trump continues this war. And he wrote a letter tonight and put it out today, ending the MOU, ending the memorandum of understanding, ending the ceasefire, and going straight back into full-scale war with Iran.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later in the show. That is an epic disaster headed in our direction and brought to you by people like Lindsey Graham, who always loved disaster as long as it led to profits for his donors, which leads me to my last question on this topic. So, Representative Greene, we're told by journalists and reporters in DC that no, the money barely affects the people in Congress. Yes, the donors that give millions of dollars might have slight influence and they might get their calls returned, but really it's no big deal to the politicians in DC. And so in the case of Lindsey Graham, he was funded by the military industrial complex, the defense contractors, and by Israel. So, it was always hard to tell who he cared more about, the defense contractors that always wanted war or Israel who always wanted war. So I'm curious about your take on who he really served there. And I get that it's both, but I'm curious. I sometimes get the sense that he served, in his case, the defense contractors even more than Israel. And every politician in almost every politician in my experience has some sort of top donor that they work for, that they have like these little niches, right? So who's right? Is it most of the reporters in DC who say, no, this is a lovely gentleman, slightly influenced by his donors, or did he work basically lock, stock, and barrel for especially those two particular donors, the defense contractors in Israel?
Pretty much every politician in Washington, no matter which party they're in, serve their donors. They serve the people that fund their elections. No candidate, no politician can get reelected without funding their campaign. It's a necessary part of a very nasty business, and there needs to be big changes there. And so, of course, he served his donors. 100%. He served the military industrial complex, but he served the Israel lobby. Perhaps even bigger. But I would say Lindsey Graham as a whole, you could look at him and his policies, his votes, the things he pushed for. He served the American war economy. And Cenk, this is something that can never be overlooked and needs to be talked about more and more, because the American war economy is the business in Washington, DC. And this is the business that they have been in for a very long time. It started after World War II. It started in those world wars and it continued. And this is the business model that props up politicians, props up Lindsey Graham, and make no mistake, they're going to do everything they can to make sure they put someone in place, not just his sister that Governor McMaster's appointed today, but whoever is anointed next to win that August 11th special election that will go on to the November election. They're going to make sure that person is dedicated to the very same path and footsteps that Lindsey Graham was on. This will be someone that is compliant. They will dress them up and try to make them as MAGA as possible and Trump approved for all the Fox News viewers and the boomers that are glued to Fox News all day long to vote in that election. But they will make sure that whoever replaces Lindsey Graham is 100% dedicated to the American war economy. And it's the American war economy that we have to defeat, Cenk. That is one of the biggest things that I don't care how you vote, left, right, middle, in between, or you're sick of voting. That is the number one problem that we have to rip by the root out of both parties and out of Washington, D.C.
I couldn't agree more. It's money in politics that's driving all of these problems, not just in regards to foreign policy and war, but in almost every problem we have in this country. If we don't get rid of the corruption, we will have endless wars and our country representing foreign governments and corporations to no end. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.